It was raining that night in the big city, hard enough to wash the slime off the streets and into my noodle house. The dame was hungry, but not for food, as I would soon discover.
Would you like to order anything else, ma'am?
Yes, I'd like to order you to come with me so I can turn you in for the reward money.
By the way, how did you find me?
That's my stolen motorcycle you parked outside, you dumbass.
Of all the noodle joints in Wuhan, she had to walk into mine. Hello and welcome to Random Movie Time. Today's feature is the 2019 Chinese neo-noir crime thriller Wild Goose Lake, directed by Diao Yinan and starring Hugh Ji and Lun-Mei. This tells the story of the leader of a group of motorcycle thieves who, after accidentally shooting a policeman, hires a prostitute to turn him in so that his wife and child may get the reward money. But like any good noir story, things don't go exactly as planned. What did you think of this movie, Shannon?
I was very impressed with this film. I thought it was very, very well done. It is tagged as a neo-noir, and it does have those neo-noir elements, definitely. It's very grungy, very dramatic, but not overly dramatic, in a really, really good way. The cinematography is beautiful, but there are also some really interesting surreal elements to the film as well, and I really liked that. As you mentioned, Tommy, yeah, it was some bits reminded me of David Lynch, but it's very much more grounded in realistic kind of filming. So it is very neo-noir-y. That's very true. I was really impressed with the acting in this film, especially the lead actress. When I first saw her, when you first see her, she doesn't even say anything for the first little while. I knew immediately that she was a ne'er-do-well, that she was kind of somebody who wasn't necessarily a very innocent girl, just by her actions and the way she carried herself, her expressions. And the lead male actor as well. I thought that rung true for everybody in the film, but especially the introduction of that female lead, because really when you first meet her, you don't know anything about the story yet. You don't know why she's meeting this guy at some train station. You don't know what's going on. She doesn't say anything. You don't know who she's associated with. And for her to evoke that presence, I thought it was really amazing, really well done. I loved, again, the shots that they used, some of the incredible close-ups of things. Like there's one shot where in a very intense scene they have a close-up of one of the guy's Adam's apples. And it's just like you're like, wow, all like, it's really crazy. Just little shots like that throughout the film that are really, really interesting choices. And it suits it really well. It's set in Wuhan for the most part, which is kind of, I guess it's kind of known for a lot of crime and stuff like that. So, it's really, I love the way it looks. It made me think of cyberpunk without the cyber. Like, it was really grungy and dark. There was very little. There were some, and every now and then there were some bursts of color. Like every now and then you'd get a burst of green or something like that. But the feel was really, really amazing. And I love how the characters in this movie are who they are. They don't try to garner sympathy from you. They just, for the most part, I mean, you know, this guy who's in this crime syndicate is trying to get captured so he can give the reward money to his wife and daughter. But you don't feel sorry for him very much. You know, he kind of made his bed, and they don't really play it up. They don't really try to make you feel bad for him or make you feel bad for anybody in the film. They just are who they are. No apologies, and they just do what they do, and you know. So to me, a big part of film is when I see characters on the screen, I want to be able to like them, or not necessarily like them for being a good person, just like them for being really interesting characters or really realistic type people, or you know, somebody that we can relate to on some level. And that didn't even this was so seamless, it didn't cross my mind whether I liked the characters or not. They were just there. And they did a really great job. Really good writing. Another thing I really like, there was one death scene involving an umbrella that was really cool. So I recommend you see it just for that. And I like the soundtrack. I mean, it was really the beginning. The beginning theme song was really interesting. It really set the mood. And throughout the film, there was good music. There was one scene where, again, it was kind of surreal. Where they were playing Boney M and doing some line dancing to Boney M in this market with these neon shoes. There was like lots and lots of people with these funny neon shoes on doing line dancing to Boney M in the middle of the marketplace. I won't tell you why, because it'll spoil it, but I was like, wow, what's going on here? That really turned my head. So the only thing the only thing that would make me not give it a 5 out of 5 is I thought sometimes they use this trope that I find that they do in a lot of like Chinese and Korean and movies and Japanese movies, where I don't know if it's an Asian thing or what, but they use this trope a lot where they're like, oh, would you like me to tell you the story? You know, so you meet up with somebody, right? And you're like, well, I'll tell you the story if you have the time or whatever. And so instead of it just going into the film, they'll tell the story, and then it'll jump to what's happening in the story, and then it'll come back to the people again, and then the same thing will happen. Oh, well, I'll tell you my side of the story now, and it'll jump into that side. And I mean, and that's fine. I mean, that can be a really good engine for telling stories in films. It's just in this one, occasionally it wasn't very clear. Like there was one or two times where I'm sitting here going, oh, is this still the story or is this present time now? So that was the only thing that I found a bit off sometimes. I liked the ending. I thought it was kind of a happy ending in a way, but kind of not. And it was a little funny. It made me chuckle a little occasionally. It wasn't laugh out loud funny. It's still a drama, but there is humor in there too. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Tommy?
Yeah, I liked it. I did think the story was kind of dense at some times. I did find it hard to follow sometimes, like you were saying. At first I thought, well, maybe it's because, of all of the subtitles, although, I'm fairly used to watching movies with subtitles, but I think really it was just, that's how noir stories are. They often have like very complicated, convoluted plots, so that was just, me not giving it the full attention that I should have in every scene, but most of the scenes were very good. How an old noir movie, of course, is filmed in black and white. This one was not only shot in color, but on digital, and it gave it a kind of gritty, hyper-realistic look. Like it wasn't like beautiful cinematography. It didn't like, there wasn't any shot that like blew your mind, but it was just, I think that sort of realism served this story well, because except for like a couple of those wild action pieces like you were talking about with the umbrella, like most of the movie felt very, very grounded, and it all seemed like plausible up to a point.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised by some of the sexuality in this movie, because it was a Chinese movie, and there was one detail, I won't say what it is, but there was one detail that I don't think I've ever even seen in a mainstream North American movie, so I was like, but I understand that they typically, when they make a movie in China, if it has any kind of objectionable content or possibly objectionable content, they'll make two cuts, one for China and one for the rest of the world. So I think that's probably what happened in this movie. Otherwise, I'd be very surprised. But yeah, there's some steamy scenes, all right.
Well, it was kind of co-produced with France, wasn't it?
That would explain it.
So yeah,
I guess
it was put in for the Palme d'Or prize at the Cannes Film Festival. That was the first screening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the French can be a bit raunchy.
The French influence there, right on. Yeah, and also I think this movie was supposed to be a period piece in a way, like it was set like a few years ago, like in 2006 or something, and I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, why did they bother setting it just a few years in the past like that when things still looked kind of the same?
I'm not really sure what the history of that region was like back then, so maybe it has something to do with it, maybe, but also maybe it had something to do with them not setting it in contemporary times because of their being afraid of censorship too. I mean, that could be a possibility.
So but if they set it, if it's like considered a period movie, then it has more cachet, so there would be less censorship maybe, or something.
Yeah, because I know I've heard of that with other foreign films. Like there was a Turkish film, I can't remember what it was now, but that's what they did. They deliberately set it like 20 years ago, so it wouldn't be considered a contemporary film. So it kind of slipped under the radar. So I don't know, maybe that's why, but I'm speculating.
Interesting. No, could be. And
who knows, like what China, the Wuhan area was like back then, maybe.
Yeah, I'm guessing that must have had something to do with it. Like, there was a particular wave of crime in that area in that year, so they were sort of talking about that time. I thought the actors were very good, nice, subtle performances, like you were saying, from both of the leads. I thought the policeman was really good. He was this sort of dogged policeman, like in the best noir movies. He isn't going to stop until he gets his man. Interesting movie. The only thing that I thought was a little bit weak sometimes was some of the sound effects, and this might have been deliberate, but you know how typically when you hear gunshots in movies or fighting and stuff, it's very loud and blam, blam, blam. In this movie, sometimes, most of the time, the gunshots and everything were like very subtle, like you almost didn't realize what happened.
It was like they all had silencers on the guns or something.
Maybe, yeah. But again, you know, I think they weren't going for the typical Hollywood feel. They were doing it in a slightly more subtle way. But sometimes it was confusing as to know like what happened, who shot who, and all that. But all in all, I think this is a pretty good movie, and like you said, the ending is really good too. It has a perfect sort of noir crime movie ending. So, yeah. Okay, so how many motorcycles out of 5 would you give this one, Shannon?
I will give it a 4 motorcycles out of 5. Yeah, I was really impressed, pleasantly surprised. Really had that gritty neo-noir film and a touch of surrealism, but not too much. And so I thought it fit really well. Again, I was impressed by the acting. I was impressed by the interesting shots that they used in the film. But yeah, like Tommy said, it's occasionally it's a bit difficult to follow. So that's what kind of knocked it down for me a bit. But yeah, I really recommend this. How about you, Tommy? How many motorcycles?
I'll give it 3.5 motorcycles out of 5. Pretty good movie. As we said, you know, sometimes a little hard to follow. Some issues with the sound. But a pretty good movie, and I hope to see more from this director, Diao Yinan. Apparently, he's done a few other really well-regarded movies. So I guess that's about it. So we'll see you next time on
Random Movie Time.